Battles intensify as Kael, Lyra, and the rival face Orion and Selene. Riven and Thorn respond swiftly under pressure. Subscribe to Turmoil Studio to continue the Eclipse Saga. The chamber pulsed with quiet power. Light traveled through the ancient symbols etched into the circular platform, spreading outward like veins beneath the stone floor. Every line glowed in rhythm with the deep heartbeat of Terenfall. Kael stood before the towering crystalline column. The pulse flowed through it like a living current. Lyra slowly circled the chamber, studying the pillars surrounding the platform. Each one was carved with intricate patterns that spiraled upward toward the cavern ceiling. "This place," she murmured. Her fingers brushed the stone carefully. "Is older than the city." Kael nodded slowly. "I can feel that." He placed his hand against the glowing surface again. The response was immediate. A surge of light burst outward from the column, racing across the floor, symbols like lightning through a web. The chamber illuminated fully. Across the stone walls, faint projections appeared, lines of light mapping through the rock like a vast underground network. Lyra stopped moving. "Kael." Her voice carried a mix of awe and concern. "You need to see this." The glowing lines expanded outward from the node, spreading across the walls in a massive pattern. Tunnels, structures, energy paths. The entire foundation of Terenfall revealed itself in luminous detail. Dozens of nodes flickered across the map, some bright, some dormant, some barely alive. Kael stared at the projection. "The city," he slowly turned in place, "is built on a system." Lyra pointed toward a distant glowing mark on the map. "That one is close to the western district." Another point pulsed faintly near the river sector. "And that one, near the old gates." Kael studied the pattern carefully. "This isn't just infrastructure." He looked back at the central column. "It's a network." The pulse beneath the chamber surged again. This time, the projection shifted. The glowing lines moved, not randomly, deliberately. They followed Kael's presence. Lyra's eyes widened slightly. "It's responding to you." Kael frowned. "No." He studied the projection again. "It's measuring me." Far above the chamber, the city continued its quiet reorganization. But something else had begun to move. Deep within the forests beyond Terenfall's outer walls, Obscuron drifted through the dark branches. The shadow paused suddenly. Its tendrils curled tightly. "It begins." From the darkness behind him, Gorath stepped forward. "What begins?" Obscuron's voice lowered. "The awakening of the network." Gorath's eyes narrowed. "The Axis has found something." Obscuron drifted toward the distant glow of the city skyline. "Yes." His whisper carried a cold certainty. "And now the system will begin revealing itself." Back in the chamber, Kael stepped away from the column. The projection slowly dimmed, but the glowing map remained faintly visible along the walls. Lyra crossed her arms thoughtfully. "So this city is basically one giant machine." Kael looked around the ancient structure again. "Not just a machine." His voice softened. "A defense." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "For what?" Kael didn't answer immediately. Because one part of the map had begun to flicker violently. A distant node, somewhere far beneath the eastern district. The light pulsed erratically, then dimmed, then pulsed again. Lyra noticed it too. "That doesn't look good." Kael's expression hardened. "No." He stepped toward the spiral stairway leading back to the surface. "That looks like a problem." Lyra grabbed her bow. "Well," she sighed, "let's go see what kind." Far beneath the chamber, deeper within the ancient foundations of Terenfall, another structure stirred. A dormant mechanism rotated for the first time in centuries. Stone shifted, locks disengaged, and somewhere in the darkness of the forgotten depths, something ancient began to wake. Far below the chamber Kael and Lyra had just discovered, deeper than the foundations of Terenfall's oldest walls, stone shifted with a slow, grinding breath. Dust that had rested undisturbed for centuries lifted into the darkness as ancient mechanisms began to turn. Massive circular plates rotated within the earth. Seals cracked open. Faint lines of light ignited across buried structures that had not seen movement since the city's earliest days. The network had felt the disturbance, and something within it had responded. Above, Kael and Lyra climbed the spiral stairway back toward the surface. The glow of the node faded behind them, but the pulse beneath the stone followed them upward like a steady guide. Lyra glanced over her shoulder once. "You feel that?" Kael nodded. "It's stronger. And faster," she added. They emerged into the plaza once more. The afternoon light spilled across the fractured district, but the city no longer looked as broken as it had hours before. Streets had subtly realigned. Barricades formed cleaner defensive line. Even damaged buildings appeared stabilized by hidden structural adjustments. Terenfall was correcting itself, but Kael's focus drifted east. The pulse he felt beneath his boots was no longer evenly balanced. Something deeper in the system tugged at it. A distortion. Lyra noticed his expression tighten. "That unstable node we saw?" Kael nodded. "It's getting worse." From somewhere beneath the eastern district, the rhythm of the city stumbled briefly, like a heartbeat missing a beat. Then it returned, but slightly uneven. Lyra exhaled slowly. "So we just woke up the brain of the city." Kael looked toward the eastern skyline. "And now part of it is malfunctioning." Lyra gave a thin smile. "Perfect." Far beyond the walls of Terenfall, deep within the forest ridges overlooking the city, Dravok stood among the shadows. The wind shifted across the tree line, and with it came a faint vibration through the ground. Dravok's eyes lifted. He felt it, a disturbance moving through the city's foundations. Behind him, Gorath stepped forward. "You sense it too?" Dravok nodded once. "The system is shifting." Obscuron's shadow drifted slowly between the trees above them. "The axis has touched the network." Dravok's gaze hardened toward the distant city. "Good." Gorath turned slightly. "You expected this?" Dravok's grip tightened around his hammer. "Machines awakened slowly." His voice lowered. "But once awakened..." He looked toward the eastern district where the pulse faltered again. "They reveal their weaknesses." Back in the northern district, Kael and Lyra moved quickly through the streets. The pulse beneath the city was guiding them again, but this time it felt strained, uneven, like something inside the system was pushing against its own structure. As they reached a high bridge overlooking the eastern sector, the cause became visible. A distant tower trembled slightly. The streets around it shifted unpredictably. Barricades rotated halfway and then stopped. One of the city's bridges jerked violently before stabilizing again. Lyra frowned. "That's definitely not normal." Kael studied the district carefully. The pulse there was chaotic. Fragments of the system trying to correct something that refused to stabilize. "That node we saw," his voice was quiet. "It's failing." Lyra rested her hand on her bow. "Then I guess we should fix it before the whole city starts falling apart." Kael stepped forward. The pulse beneath the bridge surged again, guiding them east. But this time the rhythm carried urgency. For the first time since discovering the network, the system wasn't simply learning, it was asking for help. And somewhere beneath the eastern district, the awakened mechanism continued to turn. Stone rings deep beneath the eastern district rotated slowly against one another, their movement echoing through narrow subterranean tunnels like distant thunder. Ancient locks disengaged in sequence, each release sending a faint ripple through the vast network beneath Terenfall. For centuries, the mechanism had slept. Now the disturbance in the system had reached it. Light began to flow through narrow channels etched into the surrounding rock, crawling outward like glowing veins. The energy moved with purpose, searching through the network of conduits that connected the hidden nodes across the city. Above, the eastern district felt the result almost immediately. A tremor rolled through the streets. Market stalls rattled. Hanging lanterns swayed violently. A row of barricades rotated halfway, before stopping again with a heavy metallic groan. Citizens looked around in confusion. Something beneath the city was shifting. Kael and Lyra crossed the long stone bridge leading into the eastern sector just as the tremor faded. Kael paused briefly, feeling the pulse beneath his feet. It was no longer uneven. It was accelerating. Lyra noticed the change too. That's new. Kael nodded slowly. The system is reacting to something. Ahead of them, the streets of the Eastern District were beginning to reorganize again, but not with the calm precision they had seen earlier. Bridges shifted more abruptly. Stone pathways slid into new alignments with sharp grinding sounds. The city was adjusting too quickly. Lyra frowned. That doesn't feel like learning. Kael stared down the road. No. His voice was quiet. That feels like defense. Far beneath them, the awakened mechanism reached the end of its first rotation. With a heavy click, a central plate locked into place. For a brief moment, the entire structure went still. Then, a second layer of mechanisms began to move. Large stone arms unfolded from the circular structure, extending outward along ancient rails carved through the rock. Their movement sent fresh waves of light racing through the underground network. The energy surged upward through hidden conduits, toward the unstable node, toward the disturbance, toward Kael. The eastern plaza erupted with motion. Kael and Lyra stepped into the open square just as the ground vibrated beneath them. The pulse surged so strongly that dust lifted from the stone surface. At the center of the plaza, a section of pavement cracked open. Not from damage, from design. Circular seams revealed themselves as ancient plates separated, sliding outward to reveal a cylindrical structure rising slowly from beneath the earth. Lyra stared. Oh, that's definitely new. The structure rose several meters before stopping. Its surface was carved with the same glowing symbols they had seen in the underground chamber. Energy flowed through it in unstable pulses, flickering rapidly between bright and dim. Kael stepped closer carefully. This must be the node we saw on the map. Lyra studied the erratic glow. It doesn't look stable. The column trembled slightly, sending another ripple through the surrounding streets. Nearby barricades shifted unpredictably, and one of the district bridges rotated several degrees before stopping abruptly. Kael placed his hand against the stone. The reaction was immediate. The unstable light surged violently across the structure, spreading through the symbols in chaotic patterns. For a brief moment, the entire Eastern District responded. Streets moved, buildings shifted, bridges tilted. The network attempted to stabilize itself, but something deeper in the system resisted the correction. Kael pulled his hand away. That's not just instability. Lyra looked at him. What do you mean? Kael watched the flickering light inside the node. It's interference. From the dark forest beyond the walls, Obscuron drifted higher into the air, its shadow stretching toward the Eastern District. Its whisper carried faint satisfaction. The network awakens, and already it fractures. Below him, Dravok watched the city carefully, not fracture.